This is day 3 of my preaching stories series. These are things to give you things that may fill a moment that could go dry, or things that have been time tested. I have no patent on them, but they're stories to push the message along, and sometimes they're stories to climax. So the first one I'll have is one to catch a laugh, but to give an incredible truth also. I heard the story of a young pastor who had taken over a church, and the young pastor was single, and his church had all of the women walking around in front of him, and he was starting to struggle with lust. So being the pastor, he couldn't find that many people to talk to that particular problem about, or confess his faults to. So he spoke with someone. They said, you need to go to talk to Deacon Robinson. You know, he was very selective in who he told about his issue. So he went to Deacon Robinson. Deacon Robinson was the head deacon at the church, the oldest man in the church. He was venerable, had seen it all, had done it all, and was there when the church first started. So they went to Deacon Robinson about it, and he said, Deacon Robinson, I have to confess to you that, hey man, I'm starting to have a problem with lust. Can you tell me exactly at what age you stopped dealing with this? And Deacon Robinson looked at him with all the mother wit and intestinal fortitude and everything that an older man has. And he said, I'm gonna have to ask somebody older than me. So look, we all deal with lust. That's story one. The second one is maybe you held on to that grudge too long. This is actually true. I was sitting with years ago in a business that I was in. We were making arrangements for a lady well into her 90s, and both daughters were a tad bit at odds with each other, but they were all both 75 plus. And one daughter just tells the other sister, her sister, that I've had a problem with you and mother for years. And so the sister heard that thing because mom is gone. So she said, what problem did you have with me and mother? You know, mom only had two children. And the sister said, and to my consternation and amazement, and almost made me run out of the room, the sister said, when we were 5, ooh-wee, maybe you held that grudge too long is the point. When your grudge has 70 birthday candles on it, maybe you held that grudge too long. And then she goes on to tell her that mom bought her the bald head doll, while the other sister got the doll with hair. And her sister said, girl, you've been carrying this all these years. And she proudly looked back and she said, it hurt me. Maybe y'all held on to that grudge too long. A little B story to that. I was talking with a lady and she was telling me she's almost near 80. And she had a grudge because someone was talking in her elementary school class and the principal shamed her and made her stand on the stage undeserved. It wasn't even her. Now she's almost 80. That principal has been in somebody's cemetery probably for 40 plus years. But a current year tear came down her eye. One more time, maybe you held on to that grudge too long. When your grudge has over 70 birthday candles, you held on too long. And the third and last would be the story of a man. There was this old farmer that had an old mule. The farmer was tired of the mule, and the farmer just couldn't come out to just shoot the mule. So the farmer lured the mule into a ditch. and the mule fell into the ditch. And he didn't have the guts to kill him himself because the mule had been so dear to him over the years. But it was time, the mule's time was growing near. So he went by the pit that he threw, the ditch that he threw him in, and he threw an old car fender on the mule. And the mule shook it off, stepped on it, and moved on up a little bit higher. Then he went on and he threw some more garbage on top of the mule. And the mule shook it off, stepped on it, and moved on up a little bit higher. This time he came back with more debris that he threw on top of the mule because he wanted to just cover the mule so he wouldn't have to. Then the mule shook it off and stepped on it and moved on up a little bit higher. I was feeling my preaching flow on this one. So one came in with one last load of trash he threw on top of the mule, and the mule stepped on it, shook it off, and moved on up a little bit higher, was able to walk out of the hole and eat some green grass and drink some cool water. In life, so many things will come your way. You just shake it off and step on it and move on up a little bit higher. You can kill a house with that one. Preaching Stories, Day 3. Be blessed.